Hello, my name is Dante Renee, and welcome to the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more. Like tonight's film, this is 1979's Lady Dynamite. 1979's Lady Dynamite, covering up a little bit of the cover right there. Directed by Carlos Tobalina, going by the pseudonym Troy Benny, which he has used times before. And Carlos Tobalina, I've done a good number of videos on this awesome director on this YouTube page already, and many more to come. Thank you, Vinegar Syndrome, for releasing a lot of his films. This is on the Peakorama Big 2 Unit show here with Come Under My Spell, which is also done by Carlos Tobalina. We're looking at Lady Dynamite. The poster says Ready to Please, and this is from 1979. This stars in the lead Colleen Brennan, and Colleen Brennan definitely is not only the lead of this film, but the star, the focus. She is the film in many, many regards. And it also stars Blair Morse and exotic male dancers Rocky and Mike, who you will see in action. Here are a couple, well, here's one screenshot right here that I can show. Okay, Colleen Brennan driving. And this is such a rare film, just like all these Peakorama Big 2 Unit shows and a lot of the stuff, you know, Vinegar Syndrome is releasing. And this is such a rare film right here, and a rare X-rated film. So let's get into this movie here, folks. If you don't know Carlos Tobalina in many regards is like the Roger Corman of X-rated films. Low budget, but beautifully shot, wonderful you know, on location, wonderful locations, and shooting these films in 35 millimeter, you know, understanding, you know, people saying, oh, something is low budget, but when you're shooting in 35 millimeter, wow. That's all I can say is wow. Lady Dynamite is really focused on Colleen Brennan's character. She is a wife, and she's been married to her husband for 10 years, and she realizes there is a turning point in their marriage where she realizes that there has been infidelity, not on her side, but on her husband's side. And the way that she finds out is, I'll leave that up to you, but it involves a doctor visit. And so she realizes this infidelity, and as a result of that, she realizes internally a lot of different things sexually, and decides to kind of, you know, rather than get a divorce, she's going to go out and she's going to experience the men and the women ad nauseum to her heart's delight, and to really, as she kind of hints near the end of the film, grow emotionally inside. And there's a twist at the end of this film, by the way, that you probably will not be expecting at all, especially if you're well versed in X-rated cinema or Carlos Tobalina cinema. You know, at the beginning of this film, it almost reminded me of another film that I looked at on this YouTube page, Her Last Fling, which was also by Carlos Tobalina, and check out that video. But where a woman is visiting a doctor at the beginning of the film, and the rest of the film kind of follows her journey into sexual freedom as well. But the reasons in this film are different than the reasons in Her Last Fling. But Her Last Fling also had a twist at the end of the film, and so does this one in a different light. Now, right off the bat, I'm going to say that Colleen Brennan, she has such sexual finesse and energy and just total just letting it completely loose. I mean, for this type of character, who is a woman who wants to be free, who's experiencing sexual freedom and wants to experience what she hasn't been experiencing for 10 years since she was, you know, married and faithful to one man, and she just exhibits that inhibition, that just total wildness, and it's as if she's completely letting go, and you can just see it in her face, in her mouth, how wide her mouth opens, as she's just in total ecstasy and fun and on a almost animalistic sexual wildness. I mean, Colleen Brennan definitely has this vibe that she likes what she's doing, and at the same time, she's a bit in control of what she's doing, even if the other person thinks they're in control, and that she also is this wild beast, is this spirit that wants more and more and more. Almost she has this insatiable quality to her expressions and to her moans and almost screams at times. I would almost say too, Colleen Brennan is probably one of the loudest of the Golden Age actresses as well. Now, Lady Dynamite has very little dialogue in the film. It is a film where sex really is the substance. And if you know Carlos Tobalina's style, Carlos really loves to focus on the sex scenes in his X-rated cinema, and he likes to make them, you know, the focal point of an X-rated film. And in this film is no exception, and it is just wall-to-wall sex, and it's the actual length is 80 minutes, and you know, there's probably about, you know, there's very little dialogue, maybe 5 to 10 minutes of dialogue in the whole film, kind of scattered throughout, though, you know, scattered throughout, maybe a little bit more, but sex is really the focus here, and we kind of, these are all, you know, real locations in this film, and then we start off at what appears to be an apartment, maybe, the bedroom's in an apartment, the kitchen bar of the apartment, and then we kind of go to beautiful, you know, the Golden Gate Bridge, I believe it's called, in San Francisco, which is always a focal point in Tobalina's films. But the way that he shoots it in this particular film has a unique quality to it, where at one point in the film we are kind of at one of the sides of the bridge, just stationary there, you know, seeing the bridge from one side of it, and that was very interesting. And then we also get some driving sequences over the bridge as well, and we go from there to the inside of a docked boat, in this beautiful, you know, boat. And we go from there to a house with these huge bay windows and a living room, and I believe I might have seen that location before, possibly in Love Champions, I believe it's called. Maybe it's the same house. I'm not exactly sure, but I know Carlos Tobalina was known to film in his own locations sometimes, his own homes, his own properties. That could have been his boat, too. I'm not really sure. But these are the main locations of the film, and this is where everything really happens. And we also have first-person narration from Colleen Brennan's character, and you are hearing her thoughts, you are hearing her desires, you are hearing her frustration, and you know, there are these driving sequences over the bridge where you're really getting a chance to hear what's going on inside of her, and her levels of emotion are really well done, in particular when she's talking to the doctor in the film, who's played by Carlos Tobalina. He's almost the Alfred Hitchcock of X-rated cinema as well, that he shows up in little roles, speaking roles. But she really, there was just an awesome quality, natural, emotional, angry quality to her when she was talking to the doctor near the beginning of the film. And you know, Carlos Tobalina also allows what many would call mistakes that they would want to fix in post-production, but if you look at one of the driving sequences, you look in the passenger seat, because the camera, I believe, is on the, you know, on the windshield somewhere when Colleen's driving. You'll look, and I believe you see Carlos Tobalina's hair as he's crouched down and hiding in the passenger seat of the vehicle. That was freaking hilarious. I believe that was him. I don't know why he wasn't in the back seat. I'm not exactly sure what was going on there. And you'll also notice that one piece of music in particular in the film, it sounds like it's on a tape it's being played from tape, and that it's like a little warped, and it's like slowing down, and it's like, when you would have that dent in one of your music cassettes, and every time you listen to that one part, it would kind of slow down and get like kind of foggy a little bit, and then go back to normal. Some of the music in the film has um, that quality to it, where there was something maybe wrong with the music itself, the tape, the source. And so that's all part of the film. That's all in the film. You might have somebody take a quick glance looking at the camera, which is something that happens in X-rated cinema, I would say a lot, depending on the budget, of course. So Carlos will allow those things in there. And I got to tell you that this is wall-to-wall music. And if you know Carlos Tobalina's style, he always has wall-to-wall music, and the music is in the foreground and the moans are in the background. The music is always front and center. The music for Lady Dynamite, I'm going to go out and say that it is probably the most in your face, just nasty, funky, dancey music I have heard in an X-rated film. Definitely maybe the most, or in the tops. I mean, from all I can think of right now, this is just the most fiercely nasty music I've heard in an X-rated film. What do I mean by that? I mean electro, funk, disco, jazz, pulsating beats that you can dance to, some female vocals like a disco song, and then some kind of party male vocals in another disco type song. We also have some slower, smoother electro, funk, jazz, all synth driven, definitely, and electronic vibes to it all, and really strong disco chorus to it, but mixing in the funk and the jazz in there too. And I think there are about probably 4 to 5 pieces of music that get repeated throughout the film, and it's really like a radio station. Sometimes, one song ends and the next one just begins. You switch the channel, next song begins. It's almost like when you're watching Lady Dynamite, it's like Carlos Tobalina is at the helms DJing his own 80-minute movie. He has the five albums, and he's mixing and matching them throughout the scenes. And sometimes the switch over from that slower piece of music that sometimes is warped to the faster pieces of music in the film will coincide with a change in a sexual position or sexual expression in the movie itself. Now, I have to say, there is a sex scene in the boat of this film that is absolutely wild. Why is it wild? It is wild because, well, there's a lot of pent-up emotion, and this is the beginning of Colleen Brennan's journey, and she's expressing it, he's expressing it. They have a bit of a history with each other. There was something there, but she never let it happen, and now the floodgates have opened, of course, here. But not only that, it's also because I don't believe I've ever seen a sex scene that after the ejaculation it continues going, and then there's another ejaculation scene, and then they continue going, and I was like, oh my gosh, is it going to happen again? And then the scene switches. And if you know Carlos Tobalina's films, and he does it in Lady Dynamite, he repeats the ejaculation sequences from different angles, sometimes up to 3 times. I think I noted in this particular film. Something very interesting about the atmosphere of this film: there is no sunlight. This is a very cloudy, it almost overcast, it almost seems like it's going to rain in this film. It just has a very cloudy vibe to it, cloudy San Francisco. And at the beginning of the film, you see some birds flying, and you see another bridge in front of you, that could almost remind you of just some, regular inner city bridge where people hang out underneath. So there's not this sunny California vibe to this film whatsoever. It's a little bleak. It's maybe representing the lead character of the film, Colleen Brennan, and there's this wild kind of lesbian sequence in a home. She's going to a party with women, and you might recognize some faces there. There were some faces I've never seen before. And one of the characters is just hell-bent on not wanting any men whatsoever. She's never been with a man, and she doesn't want them, and they're not gentle enough, and she doesn't trust them, doesn't want them near her. So that was a very interesting little character who also seems to have been in another kind of Tobalina did that also in Mylin versus Serena, when they went Mylin and Serena went to a kind of a gay bar, and there was Jade Wong was playing a character. I'm sorry, Jade Wong's friend was playing a character who'd never been with a man before. So that was another thing there. And then, yes, it says it stars the exotic male dancers Rocky and Mike. We do, in fact, have these guys. There's about 3 or 4 guys. The first guy is the only guy that really looks like he can dance, and he dances, and his beard and everything just looks like he's an exotic male dancer, whereas the other guys, they kind of trotted in the room one after the other, breaking up the lesbian party, and now the guys are coming in. So yeah, you do get some real funky exotic male dancing, you know, ripping the pants off, wearing the Speedo thong, and dancing to the hard pulsating rhythms of the score of this film, which I believe was done by some elusive band called Seamus. I believe it's on the opening credits. Lady Dynamite is marriage and frustration, and then subsequent sexual freedom, and then a return, and then a twist. And there is some, it's actually in the trailer of this film. If you see the trailer for this film on the Vinegar Syndrome trailer set, or pick up this DVD because it does have the trailer with it, there's a line of dialogue in here that Colleen Brennan's character says to her husband near the end of the film that is actually in the trailer also, and it is absolutely over the top hilarious and just wild. Just something you would just not typically, you know, hear in a movie or even in real life. But she says something along the lines of, you know, I want you to, you know, I want you to have sex with me the way you were, you know, having sex with other women, you know, something like that. And there's also this theme in the film as well that when a man is married and he's cheating on his wife, the women he's cheating with, he's having wilder sex with them than he is with his wife at home. Okay, that is something right there. And, you know, that's another theme in the film. And something that you'll see in X-rated cinema, and definitely in Lady Dynamite, is this aspect of marriage, and marriage kind of, there could be monogamy, but there could also be an open relationship in there. But in this particular case, it's not an open relationship, but it is, you know, there's cheating against the will of the couple, but there's openness in moving on, which is not something maybe in reality you would see too much, or in regular, you know, regular films, mainstream cinema. So Lady Dynamite, Colleen Brennan is this film. She's wild. The sex scenes are wild. If you like redheads, you're probably going to like her. And all the girls in here are sexually attractive in their own right. And hey, there might even be an audience out there for the male dancers and everything else. This is Lady Dynamite. A lot of the guys I've never seen before, by the way. Something else I wanted to mention here with Lady Dynamite is that Carlos Tobalina is doing some close-up shots in a way that maybe some of the closest stuff I've ever seen him do. I mean, he's a director who will get in really, really close, but he won't stay close in the sex scenes. He will kind of have a good deal of full angles, distance shots. But in Lady Dynamite, there are some really, really close-up shots, and he stays there, predominantly near the beginning of the film on Colleen Brennan's butt, and also a little later on in the film with Colleen Brennan's butt with an anal scene. So Carlos Tobalina is really doing some work with close-up shots in Lady Dynamite. And he also does some there's like I believe one or two really fantastic shots of Colleen Brennan's face, just getting her face. I believe it might be in the boat scene. So Tobalina is really doing just some great shots and work in close-up in Lady Dynamite as well. Here it is, folks, 1979's Carlos Tobalina's Lady Dynamite. Thank you so much for watching the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page, where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more, like this one from Carlos Tobalina. And yes, behind me is the Malibu Bikini Shop poster and the Summer Job poster, and you can check out both of those videos on this YouTube page. Thank you so much, and good night.